very much for tuning in to one of our interviews here with one of our club legends, Micky McVeigh. Thanks very much, Micky, for joining us today.
No problem, Peter. Very welcome.
And this is all a goal to help people learn more about the club, learn more about the history of the club, where we came from and where we're trying to go. And if anyone would like to contribute to the club, they can buy a We Built All Saints plaque that will be placed on the side of the pitch. I'll just show you what it looks like. Right. We'll send you links in the description. You'll be able to see what that looks like. So, Micky, thanks very much for joining us today. We are, first of all, let's chat about your early days. Growing up in your family, were you from a GAA background? When did you first get into GAA?
No, I'm not from a GAA background at all. I was actually the first to play GAA in my house. My daddy might have played a little bit for Aldergrove at a time. People would be glad to hear. But no, he didn't really play that much. He was more of a soccer man. So I started playing Gaelic football at St Congle's in Antrim Primary School. And that's where I got love of the game. And I kept it up, playing in for the club. So
St Congle's in Antrim. So tell us about when you first started playing for St Congle's in Antrim at club level. Where did you play at? What was the facilities like? Who would be your mentor?
The facilities. That's a good question. We played out in what is now Allen Park, which is a golf club now, I think. And we had a field out there, which we rented. And the facilities was non-existent. We changed in the hedge. You hoped that it didn't rain, that the clothes got wet when we were playing the match. And then there was no showers, no nothing. So it was just rough and ready, but it was enjoyable.
And like, how close was your home to it?
Well, from Allen Park, I lived in the Dublin Road in Antrim, so you're probably talking about 5-6 miles to pitch. 5 miles probably to pitch.
And you and the brother jogging to it, or
so, well, we always got lifts, or sometimes you see me going out on the bike, you know.
Brilliant. And you went on through underage, and you went on to represent the County Antrim Minors at the time. Would that be right?
It was. I played for my club, St Congle's, and I was playing there minors and seniors. But in my minor time, I played for the County Minors. I played 1 year for the County Minors when I was 17, 18, and we played Donegal in the championship in Ballybofey, and I played left half back. And I was down on the programme as Micky McVeigh for St Mary's of Huckle. So that didn't go down too well with me. But no, we'd done okay. I think Donegal beat us that day, but we didn't do very well in that at that time, you know.
Very good. And tell us about the story of, how did you end up playing for Ballymena?
Well, how you end up? Well, well, I met my wife.
Was a Camogie? If it wasn't for the Camogie,
well, Camogie brought into it. We were playing a Camogie match in a Huckle, and we were playing. I was playing for Antrim Town, and we were playing a match after them. I met Mary through her cousins, and one thing led to another, and we ended up getting married. And after we got married, we moved to Ballymena. I still played for St Congle's in Antrim, but we lived in Roundstown at the time. And but once we got married, we moved to Ballymena. And once I moved to Ballymena, I signed for Ballymena.
Right.
That would have been, I think it was around 23, 1985.
Yeah.
Something like that.
And when you came into the club senior team, then what sort of division were they in? Who were some of the players you joined in, and were they good teams who came into the club?
Oh yes, I knew them from playing against them. We were the same division. We were Division 3, and they were Division 3. And I think they might have got promotion slightly before us. But I knew a lot of the players from, well, through Mary, first of all, from coming to Ballymena and running about in Ballymena, and also from playing against them. And the likes of people that won't remember, Benny Best, Seamus McCormick, Lenny McCormick, Morris McVeigh, Morris Goldring, John Buchanan, Raymond. You know, guys like that, that's the team I came into, you know. And shortly after that, then a lot of those boys would have retired. And other young
that team.
Sorry?
Tony McAtamney, was he in that team?
Tony McAtamney would have played, yes. Tony played. I played with Tony in my first early days. That's right. Kevin Quigley, guys like that, people
Good players.
think good, very good players, very good players. But that was good, and we slowly progressed,
What was the training facilities like back then?
Well, when I started playing,
before we have Quinn Park and Slimmies
yeah,
Park, club rooms.
in Sugar Mount, and if it rained very heavy, the pitch was closed because there was a lake in the middle of the pitch. And one time I seen it, it was right up the lower crossbar. But it was what we were used to in those days. There was very few clubs had facilities, and we changed that black hut, which is still there up in our club, and that was our changing rooms. And you came and got changed, and you played your match, and you went home.
See, in terms of comparing the trainings from now to back then, we wouldn't have had all the facilities we had. What sort of the training consist of? How long was it? Was there any of it?
To me, we trained right and hard at more or less the same idea. It was all pitch training, very little more training, and no cardio or no weights or anything like that. It was all ball work and sprinting. In the pre-season, it would have been sludging round Sugar Mount and running up and down the hills and just getting ourselves fit, getting our core strong, and just working that way. But there was no such thing as going to the gym or anything like that.
Yeah, no protein shakes or anything like that.
No, definitely no protein shakes.
So see, you went on for centre half back mainstay for one of All Saints' best ever squads. He's went on, got promoted through the divisions, end up Division 1, end up getting to a senior semi-final. Could you talk about those teams and some of the players that you played with in them days and some of the bigger rivalries you had in them days? We'll start with the players you played with.
Well, as I told you, there was a lot of, when I joined the club to start, there was a lot of guys who had been playing for a long time and they slowly retired. And younger guys like Barney McCann and Andrew McTamley and Frankie de Largan, they all came into the fold, and our team got stronger. We turned out to have a very good team, and we went up the divisions more or less from Division 3, Division 2 into Division 1, all inside 3 years because of the team we had. And we had a big plan to do, which helps immensely, as people can hurt and stuff. But no, we done well doing that, and we could hold our own in any league, and we got into Division 1, and Timmy Connolly was there, Speedy McAllister came in, joined us, and we played in the senior championship against St. John's, which was full of newspapers at that time. St. John's were going for either their 6th or maybe 7th Antrim Championship final that year, and they thought it was just a matter of coming down to Portlandone. We had to play at Portlandone because you couldn't play at Cougamount. A championship match. So they came down to Portlandone thinking it was going to be easy for them, and we thought it was going to be tough and we were going to give it our best, but we didn't expect to win. But we ended up getting stuck into them, and we had nothing to lose. They had everything to lose, and we went for them, and everything turned well for us, and they didn't know what happened, and we beat them. I can't remember the score. We beat them by a couple of points anyway, but we won anyway, and it was great. It was a great lift for the club,
What were the celebrations like after that day?
Oh well, always after most matches, mostly winning, but win or lose, we always our club headquarters was the Slimish, so we would have either went back to Slimish or back to McCann's house.
Yeah,
and the match. If we had went back to Mary's parents' house, the matches were sat and talked about, win or lose, and it was great. It was great crack. I'd say that happens in a lot of GA homes after matches all over the country. That you go back, and if we had done this, if they had done that, but it was always good, and everybody arrived in for the chat, and then you would have went down probably for a beer, the Slimish, meet up with the boys again, and then it continued right down the same thing again.
Right. So see, if anyone that doesn't know, Michael's married to Mary, and Mary has several brothers that all played on the team together, and whose mother and father were great GAA people as well. Jerry and Fran. So I'm sure it was intense in that household after a loss, probably more than a
Very intense, especially if maybe somebody hadn't passed the ball right to you or something. There could have been going on. But mostly it wasn't too bad. There was a bit of shouting and screaming at times, but it was all good. It was all good banter, and it was great playing the camaraderie in that team. But also having so many brother-in-laws on that team was very good. I enjoyed it. Had to look after them sometimes.
Yeah, because you'd been older than most of them, just slightly older than most of them.
I would be older than the most of them. Jared and myself would have been the same age. Enda would have been older than me, but then Enda stopped playing football early on. I wouldn't have played senior football with Enda because he had stopped by that time. But myself and Jared were around about the same age, and then the rest of them came just behind that.
Unreal, great. Those days must have been brilliant in the McCann household, especially with Jerry and Fran. Just to know more about football and GA than we would put together. So, speaking of sibling rivalries, you came into a sibling rivalry yourself. Your brother Eamon would have been playing for Randallstown over the years, and you were playing for Ballymena. What were those? What position did you do for the listeners? What position were you, and what position was Eamon?
Well, first of all, I played for St Congles. I never played for Randallstown, but we moved out to Randallstown. But even when we left in Randallstown, I still played for St Congles. So Eamon then was going to school in Randallstown, and he played for Randallstown, Tyrone. So we were always in two different teams. And then when I signed for Ballymena, he was still for Randallstown, and I would have been playing centre half back usually at those days, and he would have been. I don't think I ever marked him, but he would have been in the half forward line.
Oh, close.
So I don't think I ever marked him, but we had a couple of run-ins, so to say, and of course I came off the best. So I don't know. No, it was good. It was good, and there was no hate or anything like that. It was just we got stuck into each other, and we played just the way we play. I'm on myself, and whoever won at the end, it was the best.
Moved on.
I
remember there's one game when I first won the senior panel. You were full forward. I was lucky. I just had to kick the ball somewhere in your direction, and you made it look like a good pass. And I remember one time against Randallstown, you had a last minute winner. Would it be right?
That's funny.
What age were you at the time?
One of the very few ones I remember. I was actually coming back from injury and was a sub, and at that time, and I had a bad knee, and I came on with only 5 minutes to go, and
30s, Mickey, maybe 4.
40s.
40s, huh?
Mm-hmm. I came on. I came on. I played senior football. I was 42, so it was probably around that time.
Reserved to your 49.
And Paul McCann caught a ball.
Yeah.
And he was immediately surrounded. He just flicked it out to me. I caught it and drove it at the net. I went under the crossbar, and we won the match by 2 points. So it was one I always remember, especially against Randallstown.
Back to hunt them. Brilliant. And just talking about sibling rivalries, and as you say, unbelievable example to all us players at the club and clubmen. Seeing you play, and I came onto the team, and you were playing, and you were star of the team for a long time, and you played till you were 49.
Aye. Well, I played this 49. I was hoping to make 50, but I done my cruciate ligament. But I loved the game. And that's all I'm saying. That's the reason I played was 49. It wasn't always good. There was bad. There was bad times too. There was out training in the bad weather and the wet, and you're saying, "Why am I doing this at this age?" But it was for the love of it, And as I say, I played senior football. I was 42 and went on to 49 in reserves. And I trained all that length of time. But you had to train at that age. You have to train because you don't know who you're marking, and anybody you're marking is always younger than you and faster than you. So you had to use your skill and your strength. And as you say, because I was slowing down, I ended up. You usually go from the back line forward, and in those days the way football was played, not so much nowadays.
Of course, I'm going back the way. Yeah. I'll be next.
I ended up playing full forward then. So for a long time.
How did you perfect that? We always call it the Micky McVeigh slide.
I don't know. It was
sliding back.
never. It was just I went down one time and I caught the ball and I had one leg out in front of me and my knee wrapped in underneath me, and I just slid in underneath it and I caught it and I let it off to somebody and we got a point from it, and it just happened. It worked okay. Didn't want to do it. It's only if a ball was coming in too low around your knees, you had to get down. And if I had went down forward, I wouldn't have got again. So I was able to get up and push myself up with the leg again, and it wasn't something I didn't learn. I just done it.
So see, and many people try to replicate it in field, but there's one boy, one of the son maybe he's probably the next best at it. But speaking of playing for so long, playing the 49, all your sons and daughters, all brilliant at sport, all brilliant at all their sports that they go, whether it be Irish dancing, whether it be Gaelic, hurling, camogie, everything. But you got to play with. You actually got to play with two of your sons. What would have been, what would be your proudest moment in sport?
Well, as you said there, all my five siblings, all my five sons and daughters, they all played Gaelic games at some stage, one stage or other, and but the proudest moment I ever had was playing with two sons. Out of all the medals we won and leagues we won, you couldn't. It's another a bit nicer feeling than playing with your two sons on the same pitch and same team. It's and it's something that I'm proud of, because there's not too many people that say you've done it.
Oh, yeah.
And so and that's probably my proudest moment in all my Gaelic career.
Brilliant. And so we'll start with the more recent memory of playing with Rory. Where would Rory have been playing in yourself? Were you playing both in the full forward line, or was Rory out the outfield a bit?
No, Rory probably was out the field a bit, probably in the half back line, maybe, or half forward line. Yeah. And I would be full forward because, as I say, I was just the target man up there because I couldn't move that fast. So I had to get the ball right out of me. But no, as I say, it was great. So I probably played reserve football. I was playing with Rory, and then Sean. Sean was the first I played with, and we won the Division 3 league. And Sean and myself was in the same team.
And Sean would have been midfield during that time, or half forward?
Sean, yeah, would have been midfield or half forward line. Again, I was in the forward line, and we linked up a couple of times and done well.
Aye. Who did you prefer kicking the ball into?
Out of who?
Rory and Sean.
Oh, that's a hard question there. I didn't care who kicked into it, as long as it hit the chest and didn't have to run too far.
Oh, brilliant, brilliant. And see, Sean, Rory, they both had brilliant careers. And talking about Sean, you got to see Sean some great days and playing for the county. Is there a standout game there you remember him playing that you were really proud of him seeing?
Well, Sean, I was always proud of all my boys playing, but Sean played for the county, and I was very proud to go up and watch a county match when he was playing, especially when he played well and won, which didn't always happen to Antrim. But probably my proudest moment for Sean playing in the county would have been over when he played for London against Antrim in the championship.
Yeah.
And it was his last year in London, and he captained London, and he had a good game. And Peter Bradley was manager of the Antrim team. Came over, and Sean got the Daily Star Player of the Year award, and he gave it to us to carry home. And I think that was one of the highlights of his county career. Me and his mommy being so proud of him,
And as we said, like, all sons and daughters have all been brilliant at sport. What advice? They're all sort of they've all came through the youth systems now. So your style of parenting and your style of encouraging your kids to play sport. What advice would you give to parents out there in the club about how did you get your kids to be so involved in sport? Was it leading by example, or I know it's obviously you're not giving them telling them what they should do, but it's just the way that kind of worked for them. Maybe they could learn from some of the habits that you had.
Yeah, well,
Because I do remember a boxing bag out in the carriage back in the day, and I still see you out training away there in Mary's office.
Yeah, I still do that, and that's it. Lead for example. Most parents out there. There's a lot of kids nowadays. Their parents weren't involved in the GAA, and it's great to see them coming up to the club. But what I would say is, when I started playing football, from my kids were toddlers, able to walk. I brought them up to training with me, and took them all to matches. And there's not a greater thing than young ones watching seniors playing. I'd advise younger players, especially in their teams, go up and watch seniors and watch the teams above them playing, because that's where they learn things.
Yeah.
And they can see moves, they can see just what you're saying about that slide I do. They can see wee things that people do, and they can say, right, I'll practice that and I'll try it and make it better. One thing I would say mostly would be practice for young people, practice themselves, go up and practice the things. You've got a range of skills in any sport, but a range of skills you get in football. What you need to be doing is going up and practicing the ones you're weak at by yourself up at the pitch with football. If you can't kick with your left foot, most players nowadays, it's great to be able to kick with both feet. I was always I'm left-footed, and I was never great kicking right foot.
Yeah.
That's one thing I was sorry at, because you can get out of a lot of trouble when you kick with 2 feet. But get up onto that pitch and practice the things that you're not good at. I know it's hard to practice things you're not good at, but that's what makes you a better footballer.
Brilliant, Mickey. And looking back on, for someone who you played till you're 49, there's a pair of boots you have there. You never wore them now. I was a bit annoyed about that, but a pair of white boots I bought, you never wore them. But how did you, what advice would you give to younger men, and how were you able to keep playing? Is there things you did that was different? How did you deal with, you had all the wains in the house, you're in from a hard day's work, you're tired. Many of us just say, I can't bargain up. Now, what advice would you give to people about, keep playing to that age? How did you manage to keep playing so long?
Well, the good thing about my house, the same as the McCann's house, was we were steeped in GAA, and it was our bread and butter, and we loved it, and the Waynes all loved it, so they were all coming up to matches with us. And if there's a match on, we weren't even playing, and we would have been up the pitch, So that helped. But the main thing that helped me mainly playing until I was 49 was lack of injury. It's injuries are probably the thing that makes people retire early. And once you retire, and I remember speaking to guys with friends, and the advice they were giving me was play football as long as you can, because you're a long time standing on the side of the wire. And that is the most truest thing ever, because now I'm standing on the other side of the wire watching, and I'm still, my body thinks I could do it. On my mind thinks I could do it, but my body can't.
Yeah.
Definitely, yes. I played so long because of the love of the game, and I was usually injury-free, and that helped a lot.
Well, you did have a couple of your knees in that one a few times.
Oh, yeah. Yes, I dislocated my shoulder at Money Glass in the championship, and when I was 30, and I was told that my football career was over, but I persevered, and I trained, and I just pushed it on, and I was back. I was out a full year with that, and I was out playing the next year again. But physios told me that was my football over, but I didn't want to be over that time, so I just kept on going.
And see, just finishing off, just talking a few things about personal experiences. Like, as there's a lot of players out there get to past their prime and stop playing, and they maybe get dropped, and they maybe don't play too much. Were you ever dropped in a game, and how did you react to it, and how would you tell people? How did you learn from that time?
Well, yes, I've been dropped. I've been dropped a few times, probably, and I was always disappointed, as you are. I thought I should have been playing in these particular games, probably, but it's up to management. They pick a team and they decide who's on and who's off. Mightn't always be right.
Yeah.
But you just have to. There's no point in huffing and crying about it. You just have to get on with it. And I always just bounce back. And what I would say is, you go out the next day and you play harder and try and get that position back again, which I done and usually did. It worked out okay.
Nice. I always remember, like, as you were coming to the later part of your career, and you know, your attitude was always unbelievable. There was never anything like that there. You know, whereas I just always admired that. And see, in terms of a couple of the players you played with, who would have been the hardest trainer you'd have played with over the years, Mike, for Ballymena? You don't have to say one. You could say, you mentioned a few. You maybe played.
Yeah. We trained right and hard over the years, like, and I trained with a lot of good players. I trained with very good hard trainers. I like to train hard myself, but probably one stands in my mind mostly was a real dogged trainer and would never give up was John Donaghy. John Donaghy was, and the way he trained was the way he played. And if you were unlucky to be marked by John, he was right on top of you all the time. You never had a breath. You never had a minute. He was always on you. And if a ball came into you, he was getting a hand in or a foot in or something. So I would say probably one of the hardest trainers was John. And that was just the make of him. He was just a hard trainer.
John have struggled with vision as well.
He did. He struggled in his later days. He did struggle with vision. Like John would have been passing the ball and I would have went 20 feet away from him because he couldn't see.
Oh, John, I remember, a brilliant player. And in terms of, like, you know, what about some of the coming through the years? Who were some of the standout players you played with?
Oh, we had so many over the length of time I played for Ballymena. Loads of standout players. Probably some of the best I played with would have been Barney McCann. Barney was probably one of our best footballers. And Barney played the same as myself. Barney played for a long period of time.
Yeah.
And his county experience and all, and playing for Ireland and the Australian rules, that all counted. Like, he was a super player. Another player that I thought had oozed skill and was Enda McAtamney. Enda McAtamney, I've seen on his day, could have won games by himself.
Yeah.
On his day. You know? So, but we had so many, you know, and even younger boys too, you know, like, you know, I don't want to mention Sean, but Sean was stood up to be counted, you know, and when he was playing us tops. But no, loads of them. You know, I don't want to be naming too many players.
I know 29 years is a lot of players to go back on.
Yeah.
Brilliant. And as just who would have been one of your biggest rivalries then over the years in terms of teams, and then also who would have been a boy you'd always have marked and you were like, he was in your head, it's like, oh, we're gonna have a big one this game.
Well, players who, and when we played in Division 1,
you'd be the centre half back, Mick, not right?
Centre half back. Eddie McToll from St John's would have been marking me. Any game we played, we always marked each other, and we marked each other as in it was but we got stuck into each other and there was no quarter given. But I tell you this, one thing about myself and Eddie, after the match we shook hands and whatever happened on the pitch stayed on the pitch. But he would have been somebody stood out that I always knew was going to have a hard time marking him. Club-wise, Glenravel, Glenravel's our neighbours. We always want to be, and again in the 90s, or late 80s, 90s, Glenravel and us were in the same power, more or less. So it was always nip and tuck, and it could have went anyway. And they had a lot of good players, and Alan McCrullen, class act.
If you had the mark, you'd have been marking Alec then.
Never really marked Alec, no. Never really marked Alec. He would have been more down in their half back line more, or maybe
okay, sorry, I thought it was full.
And he would have sort of controlled their whole thing, you know. Yeah. Everything went through him, you know. But no, Glenravel would have been, as I say, biggest rivals would have been Glenravel. And some very hard games, and some off and on the pitch, you know, off and on the ball, and but good guys, enjoyed them all, you know. And it didn't matter what happened on the pitch. Everybody shook hands, and it never was taken out after that, you know. There's nothing.
Brilliant, Mike. Brilliant. And then just wrapping up, what advice would you give to the younger generations of All Saints in terms of who are playing right now, what advice would you give to them? So say, for example, you were talking to Shay or any of your grandkids that are coming into, what advice would you give to them coming into playing sport?
Well, first thing would be to listen to the management, and those guys are up there, especially our own club mentors. They're up there giving their time. They're usually people that have played and are experienced, and they're up in their own time to teach you GA games. So listen to them and practice. Go out onto the gable of your house and kick a ball against it. Throw a ball up in the air and catch it. Simple stuff, we all done it. I done it for years. You just go out and you practice yourself, and that's the biggest advice I give you. You can train with your own teammates and your team, but if you want to make yourself better, you got to go onto the pitch or get into the backyard where there's room and practice and practice and practice.
What?
And that's
we're talking once a week, twice a week. What would you tell them? How many days a week?
Me.
No, them.
Them. Oh, sorry. Probably a couple of times a week. If you're even more, if you're right footer and you want to be able to kick with the left, it's going to take you a lot longer going up, kicking a ball into the net, kicking the left, kicking right, kicking left, kicking right. So it's going to take you a lot longer. So yeah, 2-3 times a week, without committing, of course. You don't want to go every day, but yeah.
Micky, that's been a brilliant chat, brilliant talk, some brilliant history, some super names mentioned there from back in the day, and just want to say thanks for your time today. And I'll see you for a beer soon.
No problem. All the best, mate.
Bye bye.